Linux Action Show is created by Jupiter Broadcasting. It's sponsored by Ting. Go to last.ting.com to save off your first device or plan. And DigitalOcean. Go to digitalocean.com and use the promo code Here's the Thing, all one word like you're slurring it, and spin up your own Linux rig for free. And Linux Academy. Go to linuxacademy.com/unplugged and invest in your mind while saving some money. Welcome to Linux Action Show episode 447. My name is Chris.
My name is Noah.
Well, hello there, Noah. Guess what? We have a big show coming up on this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. Noah's built something unique, something special for the holidays, and there's no cloud involved. He says he's taking me to school and showing me how you build something that you could have just bought out of the box from the store and pushed a button. Oh no, instead, you spend a week wiring it yourself, manually connecting all the parts, climbing ladders, and then you come on last and you demonstrate to me how easy it is. That's coming up on this week's episode of the show. But before we get there, have you heard about this 5-year-old vulnerability that basically affects every single distribution? We'll tell you about that. And then I think Windows software is dead. AutoCAD, bankrupt. Adobe, going out of business. Anybody that makes software for Windows is screwed. And it's not me that's causing it. It's Satya Nadella. We'll tell you all about that in the news segment. And then the KDE Neon project, they think they know how to do an LTS right. All you other suckers, you ain't been doing it right. Either way, it looks like the Neon project has something super awesome in the works. We'll tell you about that. And then NVIDIA's taken the first steps towards supporting Wayland and Mir. I hope. We'll tell you about that. Then we've got feedback, but before all of that, Noah, do you know what we've got?
We've got the Merry Christmas picks.
There's nothing really holiday about these picks.
No, not about the picks. It's just the episode has to have a Christmas tinge to it because it ends with Christmas, kind of, sort of.
But you're gonna make people think it's our last episode before Christmas, which is not the case.
Fine, we'll just do that. Fine, we just have the picks. That's all we have. Nothing
the
special.
Picks,
okay. Can't do anything special or cool for the picks. It's just the picks.
Just your average, close to the holidays picks. I'll tell you about what's not so average, though. Look at this GIF-bot. Look at Piku. This is something that is totally Linux-powered, totally friendly and easy to use, nice and interactive, that can sit on top of a dark, evil DeepMind AI. It's a Linux-powered bot that can shake its head, and it can use different GIFs on an LCD screen to communicate. Now, it has GIFs like eyes and winks and smiles, but it also has internet meme GIFs, so it can respond with an internet meme. Now, this all kind of sounds cute and dorky, but if you go through this freaking post, and this is a massive post up on Imgur, talk about using Imgur for what it was really built for. He goes through the 3D modeling of the entire thing, building different test prototypes, and then, of course, into the software and the hardware. You probably guessed it. It's essentially like a Raspberry Pi in this thing, running all of this. It's so neat. And Noah, this is really the way to go. So it's got 3 PCBs for servo control, 1 PCB for connecting the wires from the base to the head, and another PCB as a breakout for the Arduino Minis. Then 3 PCBs for the mics, 2 in the ears, and the one that faces forward, and then 1 PCB for power distribution and mic control in the head. So this thing, imagine this sitting on top of or imagine a Mycroft built into this. So you got Mycroft for the back-end open source AI, and then you've got something like this for the fun, nice, cute interaction. We've seen some other projects kind of like this. They were like Kickstarters in the past. This one's totally built up from scratch. So it's the GIF bot. Piku.
So let me ask you this. Would you have to run the back end on like a local machine? Does it have to be on premise?
This one does.
It does. Okay.
It's all.
Okay.
Boy, Noah, but you know what? That's like asking, but here's the thing. As soon as you start, here's the thing, Noah. As soon as you start adding any kind of extra services to it, they're all going to have internet connections. Probably something like this isn't all that useful unless it can update your calendar, tell you about weather and traffic, right? I mean, it's kind of.
No, I wasn't getting that much. I was just thinking, if I have to run the AI part of it, and I have to run that, I'm assuming that requires more than just a Raspberry Pi, right?
No, in fact, I would prefer it does.
That runs on the Pi too.
I would prefer it does, because think about it.
I would prefer it does. I just didn't think it had the horsepower.
I've been thinking that ever since Mycroft was announced, that I would prefer something that has a central brain that is aware of if I asked to create a task on my phone, or I asked to create that task on my laptop, or I did it through some sort of web session, I would like one thing that knows that and keeps it straight across all of my devices. And not using some sort of like back-end cloud syncing provider where it syncs and resolves the conflicts, but actually like an orchestrator where the phone or the laptop is a front end to this orchestrator AI. Maybe it can do quick local answers, but then it sends the job to the orchestrator AI, and it actually holds the back-end database and the back-end calendar and the back-end contacts, and it sets it across all of my devices. So I really would like to see AI that does run on a PC, something I could put on a droplet or something I could throw on a laptop and run locally, and then have it be like the center authority of all knowledge, and then have it kill me one day. I would assume. I mean, because eventually, once we perfect the technology, the only imperfections remaining will be the humans. Ergo, we are essentially a biological bootloader. In the meantime, though, you can get a great deal on DigitalOcean. In fact, go over to DigitalOcean.com and use our promo code, Here's the Thing. All one word, like you're slurring it, like a gentleman. Here's the thing. It'll give you a $10. Here's the thing. We'll give you a $10 promo over at DigitalOcean.com. I actually would probably use DigitalOcean if I had a centralized AI managing my life. Oh my God, that sounds so appealing. They got all SSDs for the drives, so it's super fast performance, really nice machines, and their pricing is bananas. For 3 cents an hour, you can get 2 gigs of RAM, a 2-core processor, 40 gigabyte SSD, and 3 terabytes of transfer. For 3 cents an hour. You can run it $5 a month. If you want to do a different rig, they got 512 megs of RAM, a core processor, 20 gigabyte SSD, and a terabyte of transfer. But what really kicks DigitalOcean up is their interface. Nobody has a UI like DigitalOcean, and nobody's got an API like DigitalOcean. A lot of competitors are trying these days, but DigitalOcean's been in this game for a long time. And one of the things they did is they made the right bet on the technology backend. Linux for the servers, KVM for the virtualizer, 40 gigabit E connections into the hypervisors. Oh yeah, and of course, tons of great distros to choose from. Even Fedora. What? No, actually, they just added Fedora 25, which, if you think about it, is really awesome, because if you are making a bet on Fedora, like I have been for testing, I have now been able to rely on DigitalOcean for several releases to get it worked out immediately. Same with Ubuntu, Debian, and even FreeBSD. And what's so nice is every time I talk to these teams, I find out that DigitalOcean reaches out to them, and they actually set up a dialogue to make this not just something like they're not just going out and grabbing the ISO and like figuring out how to, and then throwing it on their servers. They're working upstream with the projects, even FreeBSD. Who does that? DigitalOcean.com, use the promo code Here's the Thing, and check out their great documentation too. Really good stuff, including using Docker Composer, Compose, on Ubuntu 14.04, and of course they got it on the newer versions of Ubuntu like 16.04, installing MySQL on CentOS, JSON and JavaScript, all the goodies, plus much, much more, and tons of open source projects that works with the API out of the box. DigitalOcean.com, use the promo code Here's the Thing, and a big thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Next Action Show. DigitalOcean.com, here's the thing. So tell me about this app pick. It looks pretty cool, and it's got no spyware, no adware, and no nonsense. I like that as a slogan.
Here's the thing. Sometimes
tell me
on the
here's
Linux
the
Action Show, we talk. All right, yeah. Here's the thing. I'm about to explain the thing.
Okay, here's the thing. No, as I want to hear the thing.
Right. Here's the thing. So we sometimes on the Linux Action Show we dance around things, and we lead you right up to the point, and then we expect you to jump over the cliff and go, do whatever your conscience tells you to do. We're going to skip all that today, and I'm just going to tell you, I got a tool for pirating. It's going to help you pirate things, and that's what this tool does, and there's really no two ways about it.
Oh, so that's why there's no nonsense. Oh, okay. All right.
So last night I was having a conversation with Rakai, and I had a couple of ideas for app picks, and he goes, really know a good app pick, what the definition of good app pick is when you have a unique app that nobody's really heard of and that you want to bring some attention to. So
man,
I dug to the deepest parts of the internet, and I'm like, here, this is a tool that I'm sure nobody's ever heard of. And basically what it is it's more or less a live Linux distro that you can put on a USB drive specifically for pirating stuff.
For peer-to-peer file sharing. I mean, it uses BitTorrent.
Yeah. Sure.
Well, actually, I'll tell you what. I'll give you an example. So say we were.
I know. I always use my live USB sticks to download Linux distros and other legal content. That makes total sense.
I don't deny. But girlfriend, let me tell you, let's just say hypothetically at episode 500, we were ending the Linux Action Show. No more Linux Action Show. And we wanted to put the entire 10-year catalog out for download. Wouldn't this be, along with regular torrents and whatnot, wouldn't this be a great way to distribute the individual episodes? Totes legal.
Yeah, we totally need a live independent distro on a USB key to do that. It's a tool for pirating. You can't. There's no way to spin this. There is no way to leave it to an imagination.
I guess if it makes
you would need this if you want to pirate.
If it makes you feel any better,
proprietary software is not ethical.
So
I wouldn't say I had a problem with it. It's a cool tool, and it's available for both Winblows and Linux. But it is and then they have the portable edition that you can boot, which is really what the point of the tool is. But yeah, it's a tool for pirating. So Taxiti, if you need a good tool for pirating, whatever it is, and if you for some reason want to use a specified tool rather than just a normal BitTorrent client to download media, then I guess you could go through a lot of extra work to get the same result.
I guess.
What's wrong with that?
I mean, this looks like a pretty cool tool. Look, they're downloading Fedora 11 right there. I mean, there's all kinds of things you could use this for. All right.
I guess.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I suppose a lot of people. It does remind me of the LimeWire days. This is pretty cool. I don't have any personal investment in the RISC architecture, but I've been getting notes from a lot of you out there that do. So I wanted to give a little bit of a mention to lowrisk.org, which is that's a pretty clever name. It's a fully open source Linux-capable system on a chip. They have not only got the software end of this dialed down for open source, but they've also been making sure that they have been developing out in the open the actual chip design itself. So the designs are permissively licensed and developed in collaboration with an open source community. And so that gives you a little bit more insight in the security of this thing, but also how you can build it around your different hardware needs. The low-risk platform aims to be the Linux of the hardware world, providing high-quality, secure, and open base for derivative designs. We will prove our design with volume silicon manufacture and an accompanied low-cost development board. Our goal is to lower the barrier to entry. So they've been around for a bit. People are familiar with them in our community, so I'm not telling anybody about something they don't already know if they're familiar with this stuff. But I wanted to shine a little love on it because I've been hearing a lot from them. And also wanted to maybe mention their Twitter profile if you want to just kind of stay up to a date on some of their developments at lowrisk, RISC, on Twitter if you're curious about this kind of stuff. Because this does seem to be something I find it fascinating that as larger interests move on or as the commodity market consolidates on x86, these platforms, these like PowerPC and RISC that we've talked about before, and it feels like the industry has moved on, are all of a sudden seeing a resurgence for task-specific and work-specific applications, especially when you can cram so much onto a system on a chip, and then you can run a platform like Linux on it, which is capable of doing just about anything that'll compile on there. It's amazing to watch a platform that you would have thought maybe a few years ago or 5-10 years ago was just essentially going to just be relegated to just the corners of the industry, is now coming back in a big way. And if low risk is successful in creating the Linux for system on a chips, what they really mean by that is we'll do the design and engineering and the core maintenance of the core design. And then there could be lots of deviations out there with crazy video cards or lots of memory, which could be fragmentation, but could also lead to some incredibly nice systems. And it could be common when you see switches 5-10 years down the road, they're using CPUs like this in them, because if you're in the industry of buying systems that need RISC processors, this is just what you get. Just like when you get a web server or a database server, you get a Linux box now. That's just what you get. It's
de facto standards.
I got an extra pick, an extra bonus pick. You ready? You ready for this?
I'm ready.
I'm very excited because I know how much you love cloud stuff.
I do. I worship the cloud.
There is one cloud service I think you use, though. Spotify?
Yeah, I mean, I use a lot of cloud services, but I don't particularly care for them. And if they went away tomorrow, I could really care less.
You know how you make a cloud service that has a bad application better? You know how you do that? You bring it to the command line. So check this out. This is Pitify or some PY Tiffy. And it allows you to search and start songs from Spotify from the command line. Pitify? Spotify must be running in the background, but If you got the Python 3 supports, you can use this in a Quake dropdown. What's up? And you can not only search and start music, but I believe you can also do it to Spotify that's playing on other computers in your home network or on your account. So you could also I could have a machine. See, now we're starting to cook with gas, right? I could have maybe like a rig over there that's running Spotify in the background that I'm controlling via my Quake dropdown here at the Airmaster. That could be really cool. So I haven't tried it out yet, so I just made it like a little bonus. But if you got it, you can check it out. You can do pip install py tiffy, or go to the
Pi. Get it like Spotify, except pi at the beginning instead.
But it's not pi. But see, the reason why I don't think that's because it's Python, not like a Raspberry Pi. It's like a Python script. Right. I don't know.
Python.
Care not, do I?
Pi, and then
care not, do I really? Can you tell I care not? Can you tell I care not? I was just... So I wanted to just do a mention for our biggest shame. There was a segment that got cut. It went so bad we never put it here on the show. And it was a Linux switch that Noah and I were doing that we thought was a slam dunk. And it turned out okay. We pulled it out in the end and everything's solid. But for a little while there, it was rough. And I just I posted that on my personal channel. It's called Snow Day. YouTube.com/Chris Fisher. If you want to see one of our worst Linux switches ever, and then watch us pull ourselves out of a nosedive.
Okay, to be fair, I mean there were some there were some problems from the Linux side of it, but really, like there were a lot of outside variables that had nothing to do with the actual switch to Linux that were causing issues that day that led into the failure of the episode, right? Like,
perhaps. It was. I would say I'll leave it to the viewer to see, but oh my god, I was watching back the footage. And like when I open the software center, the mouse just like freezes, and for like a seriously 3 minutes you can't move the mouse around the screen, and that was so. Anyways,
but I mean there are two devices that fix that, SSD and some RAM.
Don't spoil it. It's all in the show and our trials and woes. Jeez, man, do you not get the point of a tease or what? So check it out, YouTube.com/Chris Fisher. Plus also some other things like epic drone shots and. Probably some funny shots of Noah in there. Probably. I can't guarantee. Also, I was told by upstairs that I should mention that since we still have Super Key stickers left, if you order, I think, any sticker, but definitely a Linux Action Show sticker in December while we still have the Super Key covers, and we have white and black, we'll include them in there. We'll just include these for free. If you just want to pick up a sticker and put it on your laptop or on your forehead or whatever, and also tweet it to us at Jupiter Signal if you do. These are really sweet, and I got a few in here that I should start handing out. But we got a little bit left, so if you'd like to grab one, jupiterbroadcasting.com/sticker, and we just include them with any other sticker purchase to make it really easy and simple. All right, Noah, let's do the news.
Hey, it's the news. This episode is brought to you by
Ting.com. Last.ting.com is where you go to save $25 off a device or get $25 in service credit if you're going to bring a device. They got GSM and CDMA network to choose from. Check them out at last.ting.com. They got a savings calculator right there so you can see how much you would save. And if you're a small business, I very strongly recommend you go over there, because here's the thing. $6 a line is a great way to get phones for your staff, especially if you only have to pay for what they ever use. And if you've got Wi-Fi while they're at work, just set them up with a VoIP app, have them make sure that like things sync when they're over Wi-Fi, and it's unbelievable. Jupiter Broadcasting is able to just grab these phones when we need them and give them to folks when they're here in a way that we'd never be able to with the traditional duopoly models. Last.ting.com. They got great customer service. You get to talk to an actual human being and a dashboard that's so capable, even for more than 2.5 years now, I think 2-3 years, maybe it's 3 years I've been a Ting customer. I've had to call customer service once because I was doing something cray-cray with a MiFi in Montana. Also, check out the Ting blog. When you go to last.ting.com, click on the blog link. If you are a cord cutter, but you still want to get your holiday on, they got tips for all the different ways you can stream for free and for pay, including, don't laugh until you try it, a Yule log. These are actually legitimately, there's a whole series of these on YouTube where you can just, it's so funny, dude. And then once you start watching a few of them, YouTube just recommends a whole bunch more. And so now I got like rivers and ponds and 4K in my YouTube feed. And you know what? It's kind of legit. Part of me was thinking, maybe I should just put one of these up on my LCD television for a Christmas tree and skip doing a Christmas tree. Check it out. It's actually so cool. Go to last.ting.com. It's the best way to go. And they even cover some just over the air things you can do as well. I actually think this might be a pretty compelling offer if you're looking for a great value. The Moto G4 Plus, they just plussed it up. You can get it from Ting for $274 unlocked, no contract, and it's looking pretty nice. First of all, I actually prefer a front-facing fingerprint reader. I know I'm crazy.
Me too. No,
When
you're
it's down
not.
on the
You're
table, it's so
logical.
much easier. It's so much easier when you have it down on the table and you want to just check something.
Not just that. Not just that. Holding your phone like this is not natural. I don't care what anyone says. If they tell you that they hold their phone like this and that's natural, then they're lying to you. They don't. It's not. The phone needs to be in your hand like this, and so your finger comes here. Now, in a perfect world, the fingerprint reader would be right in the center of the screen. Like that's where
That'll
I really
happen
want it, but
one
since
day.
That's not practical. front
One
is
day.
next.
One
Maybe.
day. So, but check out this G4 here. It's got a 1.5 gigahertz Qualcomm quad core. It's got 64 gigs of built-in, but you can put up to 128 gigs of SD, which that is really nice. We were just talking about Bluetooth issues a little bit ago. That's really nice. It also has a 3,000 milliamp battery and a 5.5 inch LCD screen. It does CDMA and GSM, so you get to pick and choose what works better in your area with a 16 megapixel camera and a 5 megapixel front facing for $274. And they have the nice clean experience on there. It's not all jacked up with a crazy Moto launcher and stuff. It's just really minimal. In fact, it's a really great phone. The Moto G4 Plus for a great price. If you're looking for a great budget phone, they also have phones that are cheaper and all the way up to the Cadillacs, all the top line phones, or just go grab a Pixel or an iPhone and bring it over to Ting. Last.ting.com. Thanks, Ting, for sponsoring Linux Action Show. So I thought we should probably, I got to, hold on, Noah. Hold on. I got to change
on.
headphones. I'm starting to lose my hearing
what?
and I can't hear myself anymore. So this is something, if you watch the video version, you might notice over the last few episodes that Noah and I have been wearing headphones more and more. Why-
Typically, we figure that out before we actually go back on.
I know.
there,
I'm sorry,
you
but
know,
I just can't hear myself.
take your time.
I can't hear you either. So to explain to people why these are superior, even though they look horrible.
So the thing is, even though they look horrible, being able to hear yourself allows you to tune your voice, and so you can milk it to get it right where you want it. And the other thing is, you pick up on conversation with your co-host a lot better. So I understand what Chris is telling me, but the problem is when you're concentrating on the production aspects, I'm concentrating on looking at the camera, I'm concentrating trying to keep an eye on the chat room, I'm concentrating on trying to make sure I have my eye on the dock and where we are on the show and where we're going to be going and anticipate all that. On top of that, I'm relying on just my auditory senses to communicate with Chris. And so having him injected fully with all of his vocal range
All of it.
into my into headphones, all of it into my ear holes is way better than having a tinny version of Chris on little ear things that are stuck way in
Plus,
there. And
I
half
feel
them
like when I
fall
have
out.
in-ear headphones smashed in my ear and my hearing starts to like fade, that means I'm probably overdriving my ears too much. And I should probably just, for the sake of long-term hearing, I should probably just dial it back to these headphones. So let's move to probably a story that you're going to hear a lot about this week. It started breaking on like Friday or something, so people have been sitting on it over the weekend, and I think it's going to get a lot of circulation. There's a 5-year-old Linux kernel privilege escalation flaw that goes back quite a ways. It's not Dirty Cow, although it kind of probably reminds you of Dirty Cow. This is, get ready, CVE 2016-8655 that dates back to 2011 that was disclosed on December 7th that could allow an unprivileged, like, maybe your SQL Server user or your web server user, something that has a remote connection, an unprivileged local user to gain root privileges by exploiting a race condition in the AF packet implementation in the Linux kernel. Now, Philip Pedersen, who is the researcher that discovered the flaw, was able to create an exploit to gain a root shell on an Ubuntu 16.04 system with Linux kernel 4.4. He was also able to defeat the, I forget what they call it, but it's like a memory execution prevention. I forget they have a SM, I guess it's SMEP, which stands for Supervisor Mode Execution Prevention. He was able to get around that too, which kind of sucks. In other words, a local unprivileged attacker can exploit this to cause a denial of service against the box at best, or at worst, run arbitrary and malicious code with administrative level root privileges on the targeted system. And it goes back to 2011. Now, patches are already in the works, so it was patching the mainline kernel last week. So go patch your S, everybody. This will probably get. Sometimes these get ignored, but usually when it is local. It's a local privilege escalation. But I'll remind you, because you can be an unauthorized or you can be a low privileged user. Essentially, any service on your box that runs under a user account with a remote listening connection, even yourself with an application running locally in your X session, that could be used to get access to your system if anything in that entire stack has a flaw. That's pretty serious. That's pretty serious. So if you want to know more, go look up CVE 2016-8655. And, of course, there's also a chance that Mr. Jude's going to break it down on Thursday's TechSnap, and a chance he gets to take a shot at Linux. All right, so I read through this, and I want to touch on something. Noah and I get a lot of pushback. People get frustrated, disappointed. They agree with us. It spans the whole range whenever we talk about Microsoft and why they're participating more with the Linux Foundation.
Mostly they accuse us of being unfair. Yet nobody can ever actually defend that, but that's the accusation.
Right.
It seems to come up every time.
I want to quantify our stance about Microsoft and their participation in Linux, and then I want to dive into this Forbes article about why Microsoft is recently showing so much interest in Linux. So essentially, if I could boil down our position, and Noah, feel free to interrupt if you think I'm wrong, we believe that Microsoft is getting more and more involved with Linux because it makes more economic sense for them to get more involved with Linux as Windows as a predominant platform reduces. And as servers and Internet of Things devices and Android devices, as those become a huge, huge market, every little server that's out there to every major corporation server are switching to Linux. There's just less and less incentive for Microsoft to care about Windows and more incentive for Microsoft to sell services to those people, regardless of what platform they're using. And that's why Microsoft has shown more interest in Linux recently.
And the other side of that is they don't care about the community and the actual ecosystem of Linux. They only care about Linux as they can make money off of it. That's it.
They care to the extent that is a part in participating fully in a way that will be good for them long term. So they show up and they sponsor the hell out of tons of Linux events now and open source get-togethers. They usually have a booth at any of them that are of anything of any size and importance. And sometimes the ones like at OSCON, they go all out with like photographers there and PCs set up with demos, and they have some of the biggest, most expensive booths at an open source event. So it's not like they're not in it to win it. I mean, they're really like the way it's structured at Microsoft is they literally have an entire team of people that are dedicated just to community outreach. That's an investment from a company standpoint. If it was not required for them to be successful in this space, something tells me they wouldn't do it. It's not that we think they have evil intentions. It's just it's a calculus for them.
Right. Yes, exactly. That I 100% agree with everything you just said.
Right. And okay, so that's the Linux Action Show's thesis on why Microsoft is involved in Linux. Now, what a lot of the things we get pushback on is that people don't think we're finding the altruism or the community dedication or the passion that they supposedly have, and that's why they're doing this. You and I don't really feel that to be the case. Now, I wanted to dig into this article over at Forbes that sort of discusses a little bit further. And if this article is right, I think the Windows software platform is just completely doomed. I mean, obviously, they've got years still of lots of profitability, but Matthew Lodge was writing on Quora, who's a board member of the Linux Foundation project. He said Microsoft focuses all of its accelerators and sales training on Azure and Office 365s. Its salespeople lead with these products. Customers that are renewing Windows and Office software licenses, Office and other software licenses, they get, when they renew, as part of the package to sweeten it and encourage them, they get Azure service credits and discounted Azure usage, and sometimes like a lot of hours on Azure. Because Microsoft is selling this platform, and I have when I was in IT working when I wasn't working for myself but working for another company as an IT contractor, we were really on the forefront in a big way on reselling on VARs that resell hosted Exchange, and this was something that Microsoft was playing with many years ago. This is something they've really doubled down now. See, they have a they have a VAR network, a value-added reseller network that they work with, like contractors and businesses that resell on Microsoft's behalf into the customer base that they have. And Microsoft is working with these value-added resellers to sell the hell out of Azure. They're not telling them to sell. I mean, they'll happily take a Windows sale. They'll happily take it, but that's not what they're pushing. In fact, the article goes on to say Microsoft is more than happy to renew the deal, but it will also come with a free chunk of Azure if you do it, because they really want you doing that instead of your own servers. An operating system only matters because it's a platform for applications. Apps make money for businesses and productivity for individuals. They deliver the value of computing. See, if you look at it in the server market, Linux was largely successful in replacing proprietary Unix in data centers. If you're looking at data centers, I'm not talking VPSs and web servers. I'm saying large metal installations at data centers. Linux had the biggest inroads on replacing old Unix systems, Sun and SCO. And then x86 servers became good enough for hosting businesses to also use them, and nobody really wanted to have to pay for the operating systems anymore. And Microsoft didn't care too much about this because there's no OS market when there's no one that wants to pay. There's no market for Windows to get into now because there's nobody in the market that wants to pay.
I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it is I think that just in general, Microsoft Windows Server deployments don't scale to the size that you would need in a lot of large business. It works fine if you got an office of 50 or 100 or 200 employees, or you got a couple offices that connect together, fine, whatever. But you start getting into hundreds of thousands of employees and thousands of locations and stuff, there's no way. It's not up to the task.
So the other thing too is, like, if you're Satya Nadella and you're looking at, well, what do I do when the biggest markets for operating systems are now filled with consumers who don't need to pay for operating systems, and when the VPS, like we have VPS providers that are butthurt over paying $1 to $2 to Canonical. Back in the days, you had to pay like $1,000 to run a good version of Windows servers to Microsoft, and now they're butthurt about $1 to $2, right? So that right there demonstrates how the market has shifted underneath Microsoft. And so for Microsoft, there's nothing to sell into there. So Satya, he's up there in Microsoft's towers in Redmond. He's looking over at Amazon, and he's going, well, geez, we got this office and productivity business. We got these patents that make us a ton of money. We got these businesses over here. And he's like, but where are we going to make our next 10 billion from? Where are we going to make the next thing that's going to drive the stock market crazy? Well, he's got to be looking around. He's got to be looking over at his buddies across the street at Amazon. And they're making $10 billion off AWS alone. In fact, it's pretty much the only thing that makes Amazon money. And that's more than 10 times the size of Azure, and it's growing. AWS is growing 64% per year, while Windows licensing is growing in the single digits. AWS is the cloud platform for apps in its own right, regardless of which OS you run, so Microsoft has to acknowledge this new reality. You don't keep pouring money into Windows, the platform for apps, when Linux has such a huge adoption now. There's so much momentum there that people are targeting their applications for the server. So you throw open the doors and you just welcome every single app that people are making for Linux, and you run it on your own infrastructure. So they're totally fine with Linux. They want all of it. They understand now there's no operating system platform for them to buy into because there's nobody there that wants to pay them any money. So why are they going to invest there? Instead, we'll let you guys worry about all that stuff. You create that and we'll run it for you and we'll sell you the services. And that's why fundamentally, Microsoft is taking a new position on Linux. It's not because all of a sudden they get the GPL. It's not because all of a sudden they have this new itch they want to scratch. It's not because they accidentally ended up with all these Bing servers that are sitting idle, and so they got to do something with them. It's because they figured out a way to make money on Linux. While all of us were getting upset about patent issues and Windows versus Linux desktop, on the back end, Microsoft is figuring out how to make a hot buck off of Linux, and now that's what they're transitioning to. So of course they love Linux. Of course they do.
Right. And I support them making a hot buck off Linux. I hope Linux makes them hundreds of millions of dollars. I think that would be great. I hope Microsoft makes a lot of money off of Linux. However, there's a couple of things I want to address. First of all, is it's not. I don't think it's just the cost of the operating system on the back end. I think it's also the cost of the operating system on the desktop. So if you look at Windows, previously they were able to, every time somebody bought a new computer. I mean, I remember in the XP days where if you wanted the professional version of Windows, you were paying like I think $300. And then they had the home version and the home and student version or whatever it was. So now that Apple has gone through and said, we basically just give you the newest OS with the computer, that people, and Android has done the same thing. iOS does the same thing. The consumer has come to expect that I don't have to go out and buy a boxed version of an operating system and install it into my computer. And so that's kind of, I think, the direction they went with Windows 10. We're going to make the last version of Windows and just do updates. But the problem is that's a huge loss of revenue for Microsoft, because now they've lost that money coming in. And so they're trying to shift towards a service-based. And then as it relates to apps, like you were saying, it's not just enough to make a platform that runs native applications. The problem is the consumer knows they have to constantly buy the new version. They have to constantly update it. They have to back their stuff up. If the computer crashes, they're screwed. They put it on AWS or wherever, it's up in the cloud, so to speak. Then, 10 people can access it and you can redo the computer as many times as you want. It's just a viewer to go into that app.
Yeah, so it's sort of like, I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but it's sort of like they were the premier buggy manufacturer for all of us that owned horses, and then we stopped getting horses now and we have cars, and so now they're shifting to
Exactly.
Making parts for cars. Basically, that's a horrible analogy, but you get what I'm saying.
No, it's a great analogy, actually.
The market shifted underneath them, and now they're pivoting, and it's not, they haven't seen the light. They didn't go up and touch RMS's beard. They just they figured out how to make money off of Linux and free software, which. Great, man. We should all do that.
Yeah.
So this is a really interesting update from the KDE Neon project, which I've been fantasizing about switching to Neon for about 3 weeks now. After I was thinking about just jumping in after Fedora 25, but I ended up having a couple of speed bumps and I didn't. This is a really interesting take, though. So KDE Neon is now working on an LTS edition. For those of you who don't remember, Neon is a way to get the hottest and latest Plasma desktop and KDE applications based on Ubuntu. Plasma 5.8 will be designated an LTS edition with bug fixes and new releases being made for 18 months. We've talked about this Plasma 5.8 LTS for a while. We talked about it, I don't know, weeks ago. But they're doing something that's kind of different. He says this Plasma 5.8 LTS is going to be updated for new bug fix releases, e.g. when 5.85 ships at the end of the month, but will not change to Plasma 5.9 when that becomes available, which would be typical of Neon. Neon would typically go right to the next desktop. A common criticism, he says, of LTS editions is that it just means users get old versions with known bugs. KDE Neon's user LTS editions come with the latest KDE applications, and it comes with the latest KDE frameworks, which is going to be QTE 5.7. Now, this all works. This is all how KDE and the whole applications, Plasma Desktop are all separated. So this all kind of makes sense if you follow that. So all the KDE software we ship will be the latest and stable version, along with other KDE Neon editions, which will also have hardware enablement updates for Linux and Mesa when they become available. And it's available right here with a repo. You can add to Debian or to your apt-get repos. So this is an interesting take. So we're going to lock the main desktop edition, the Plasma desktop, to the most stable bug fix version, but we'll give you the new applications for as long as we can. So your desktop environment remains locked on a good stable LTS version, which is Plasma 5.8's LTS upstream. That's something the Plasma project's doing. They're going to be maintaining that for a while themselves. So this is a really good combination, and it's a neat take on it. So it's another thing that makes me want to consider Neon. Now, what I would love to see, which I understand they're super busy, but I would love to see the non-LTS version essentially go to current Ubuntu. So it's pegged to current Ubuntu all the time. So I could have a Neon desktop based on Ubuntu current, and I could have a Neon desktop based on Ubuntu LTS. That'd be super cool.
That would be cool.
Now, this could be an interesting development. It doesn't mean anything this drastic today. It's still a neat development, though. NVIDIA's next Linux driver is going to support Vulkan without X11. I believe this has got to be. Now, I don't know for sure, but this has got to be a big step towards supporting other display servers or protocols. NVIDIA has confirmed that their next proprietary driver update for Linux will introduce support for Vulkan rendering outside the Xorg server. With NVIDIA's current Vulkan driver, it is not possible to achieve headless Vulkan rendering if the Xorg server isn't running. But that limitation is said to be addressed by their next post-300 version 375 release. There's a common API, I think, that still has to be worked out for Wayland support and Mir support and all of that, which I think is still to be actually done. But this does seem to be pretty nice. The next driver release will support direct-to-display, which, if you're not interested in presenting your frames, will allow you to use Vulkan without X running. I don't really understand what that means, but it does seem like a good step to getting Vulkan detached from X11, which seems like a good step for Wayland support, which, gall darn it, Noah, that just makes me smile. That's all.
That's the goal, is to make it.
Moving away from X, one step at a time. A lot of people, this comes up all the time, literally a dozen times a day, ask about Linux video editing. And I honestly think that we are not going to get there fully competitively until we are no longer editing under X11. I think some of the limitations of the video editors on the Linux desktop are actually not the fault of the application, but either the toolkits they use or just X11 itself. And it's like, there's no solving that problem until we've moved to something better like Wayland. So I follow these things just for a personal interest with a lot of excitement, because I look forward to having one day a super powerful station that uses Wayland, that I could run something that's a modern editor that doesn't feel sluggish, that doesn't feel choppy, that uses a toolkit, that works with my GPU and all of that. One day. And I hope hope it's not another 10 years from now. I hope it's sooner than later. But this seems like a first step towards that Wayland utopia. All right, Noah, that's all the news for this week. Now it's time for a holiday miracle. A holiday spectacular with no cloud, just the way Noah likes it. We're going to dig in just a moment, and apparently I'm going to get schooled. But first, I'll tell you how you can get schooled. Oh, that's right, linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Go there to support the show and sign up for a 7-day free trial. Then you can really play around, try out their system, look at all the cool stuff, get a little gauge of the community. I love the Linux Academy platform because it was created by Linux enthusiasts. It's really built for those of us that understand Linux, by experts. They got labs that give you hands-on scenario-based experience. This is all they do, guys. It's not part of the entire website where you sign up and you get instructions on plumbing and you get instructions on cooking, although I'd take that from Linux Academy. They don't bother trying to be all to all. They focus on Linux enthusiasts. And I think that's what makes their courseware the best, because they know when something needs to be refreshed because they actually follow the topics. They have real human beings that can help you, and they know which ones to hire to be able to answer the questions. That's a big deal. And if you want to be one of those human beings too, they are hiring right now. I should mention this. Every now and then check out the Linux Academy Twitter feed or blog, because they've got quite a bit of positions open. They're growing like nuts. They are getting really established in the industry. And this is good for you as a student, because they have public profiles where you can publicly proclaim your accomplishments. And Linux Academy now works with the Foundation. They work with so many different companies in this space, big names, including like Cisco and all these companies out there that you've heard of. Now work and understand Linux Academy is the real deal. And so when you go there and you take your courseware and you get your certifications and you get your classes done there, they're going to understand, well, geez, Linux Academy, you actually get a legit training. That's awesome. All boats rise as Linux Academy's tide goes up, including job positions. Now, a lot of them are instructor positions, so do take that into consideration, but they are looking for a developer. They are looking for a Linux and cloud security expert. They're looking for a help desk technician. And then, of course, they're looking for recruiting managers and instructors, but mostly creators of content and instructors for all different kinds of Linux topics. Check it out, linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Then go over to their blog if you're looking for the job openings. They got them all linked there in their blog. And try out the 7-day free trial. Play around with the platform. See why it's so freaking valuable. linuxacademy.com/unplugged and sign up for that 7-day free trial. And a big thank you to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Linux Action Show. Now, I don't know much about this next video. It's Noah's big production, but I do have one pro tip for you. If you're on the audio feed, give it about 1 to 2 minutes, because it's got a quick intro to it, and then Noah gets into a description. And also, just for you, because you're my boo, I also embedded it in the show notes, and it's a pretty quick video, so you could just go back and watch it when you have a free moment. I'm pretty excited to see this. It's time for a holiday miracle.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly. Fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly. Fa la 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 la. Don we now our gay apparel. Fa la 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 la.
And that was a 2016 Christmas at the Chalaya House. Now, unfortunately, due to some constraints with YouTube, we can't actually play the entire video, or the audio track will get us taken off of YouTube. So I thought I'd take a moment to explain some of the technical details. Now, you'll notice in this particular video, we took a very different approach. Usually, if I was going to show you something technical, because I'm a fellow geek, I would just want to geek out with you and explain everything in its entirety. But Chris was taunting me last week, and he goes, "Noah, show me what Lightworks can do." Well, I will, buddy. I'll show you what Lightworks can do. And as it turns out, they're coming up with a totally redesigned version of Lightworks, and I'm going to have the opportunity to offer some input and give some feedback about my experiences with Lightworks, and so I'm looking forward to that. But on to the actual technical explanation of how we did this episode. Very early on, I was automating my house, and I wanted to automate the outside of Christmas. And there was a community of people that were doing exactly this. And so we were trading sequence files, and full disclosure, a lot of those guys were using Windows. So I started this out on a Windows virtual machine. And I noticed that inside of these sequence files, it explains, if you just open it with a text editor, it says this channel, this duration, this intensity. And I thought, that's DMX. And so as we kind of went on, I said, I could do this inside of Linux if I only had some DMX software. Well, over the past couple of years working with Altispeed, we now have DMX software that we use all the time. And I noticed that there was a show function which allows you to script out exactly what lights do what at specific times. And so we started using the show function for Altispeed. And I said, I bet I could go back and I bet I could enter those sequences, as long as I entered each channel by hand, into QLC Plus. And it turns out that works great. So this is Linux automated home for Christmas. That's what our house is going to look like. Didn't decorate it last year, but got around to it this year. And I hope you enjoyed the video and thought it was of excellent production quality, all brought to you on Linux. Back to you, Chris.
I see. So you try to get you trying to call me on the show.
I may or may not have taken the entire thing. And like, first I was like, I'll go through and explain all this stuff and show everyone, just put the camera up and let it be secondary. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I should make a video production, just like screw
So
the real
here's
thing.
for you audio listeners, we will embed it in the show notes if you would like to review and let us know what you think. So I got a question for you, Noah. See, this is a massive endeavor that this video doesn't really make people realize you are a madman with this thing. You're crawling all over the place out in freezing weather. Have you ever considered just a permanent installation? Just leave it, or just put all the hookups in place and then put the lights out every year?
Here's the problem. I can't stand driving by people's houses that have Christmas lights, even if they're off. It just looks so tacky to me.
Well, what if you just had the wires ran?
Yeah. So the problem is, the wires have to have connections. So I'd have all these connections sticking out of the ground, like next to the bushes, which would make it hard to run the lawn. I mean, there are probably no less. It doesn't look like it because it took me days to run those extension cords, but there are probably 90 extension cords, 100 extension cords all over the place, because they have to, every one of those cords has to go back to one of those dimmer packs. Like every single light has to be on its own separate circuit so I can turn each one on or off individually. So I don't know. I just have two big Rubbermaids full of extension cords that I take out.
Were you using the new Lightworks UI that looks a lot like Kadian Live for that video, or is this? Oh, okay.
No, this is whatever the last version that came out on a
in the 90s.
LTS was.
Yeah, okay, the one that came out in the 90s. So how would you get the new beta version of Lightworks to try? Because I'd like to hear your take on since you're very familiar with the current UI. I've gotten no less than probably 90 questions about it this week about what I think.
Sure.
And my thought was, if you're the Lightworks guy, you should probably be the one to try it. Can you get your hands on it? Is that possible for Lightworks? Is that something you can do?
So interestingly enough, I was in communication with a gentleman that's working with some of the people at EditShare And so he asked me for some feedback. So I was in the process of crafting that when, some of those links came in earlier today in the Slack thread talking about how the new version of Lightworks is coming out. So as soon as I can figure out how I can get it, I would love to try it. And I would love to I do a whole review segment on it. Maybe that's next week's episode.
Oh, maybe, because I've gotten, you guys have brought this on yourself if you don't care, because I've gotten so many questions about it that, now it's my turn. I liked the segment quite a bit. I think you should fly out here and just take over the best of editing for the Beard, because that's been killing him for the last.
I would totally do that as long as I can do it under Lightworks.
All right, so I will embed that in the show notes. I have it uploading to YouTube right now. If you guys would like to check it out and leave your thoughts, and then we've done coverage on DMX in the past. Do you have a specific recollection of where we could point people to the back end tech you used for all of that?
Party with Linux Rocks the Party or something like that.
Yeah. There was a Linux partying one. That was it. Yeah.
Party with Linux or something. But that's the one that goes over in detail what exactly I show you every software. I show you how to create all of those sequences and stuff. And
I would ask a personal favor from the chat room. If somebody could dig that up, we could link it in the show notes. Also from the chat room, JB Live 17308 says that the new Lightworks beta is in the AUR if you want to try it on one of your Arch boxes. So that could just be a quick, easy way.
There we go.
Yeah.
Party with Linux, episode 368.
Boom, look at you. We'll drop that in the show notes so people want to learn all the back-end tech behind how Noah put all that together. And look at him doing his fancy schmancy production on Linux. Did you see that Twitter back and forth last night?
No.
Oh, you didn't? You were getting name dropped.
No.
People were quote-unquote discussing with different Twit staff about using Lightworks for editing and citing us as proof that it can be done. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I tell you what, Leo wants any help, I will fly out to wherever he is, and I'd be more than happy to show him how to get his production done on Linux on Lightworks.
I bet he'd be all over that. I bet he would. Actually, he might. He's all about the Linux these days. All right, Noah. Well, that was a very interesting and fascinating look at both the crazy lighting setup that you go to. He's that guy in the neighborhood, everybody, with the lights going crazy. The guy that you go, damn, that guy must have nothing else to do. No, it's not that. It's just when you own your own business and hire people, you can do things like that. It's pretty cool.
I tell you what, the sign out front of the house that lets you listen to the music that says tune your radio to this is a big old branding at the bottom and says installed and configured by Altispeed Technologies.
So you let people. Like you're telling me. How come you? Did I miss? Did you mention that you set up is it an FM transmitter?
Yeah, but here's the thing. It's really not that. There's nothing sexy about it. It's literally a box that you set up and plug an audio cable in and turn it on. That's it.
That's still the most badass
transmitter in the garage.
That's amazing. I was just thinking about last night going out and doing a little Christmas lights tour, and I was gonna have to build my own music playlist. But look at you. You've got. Okay, you know what? You could downplay that all you want, but an FM transmitter transmitting Christmas music synchronized to the lights flashing in your yard is pretty cool. And that brings us to the end of this week's broadcast. But before we go, we got some cool feedback to cover, including some new gadgets that have come in, some couple emails like question type things that people ask us, and then we answer. But first, I want to tell you about our segment sponsor, System76. And they got a sale going on right now, System76.com. Where they actually make powerful computers that can do lots of storage and RAM, or they make really nice compact all-in-ones, the whole range. Turns out one company can actually produce a whole range of products. It's amazing. And they're created to run Linux. And they have desktops and laptops and swag on sale right now, as well as kind of a cool game going on, Roguebots. System76 in the year 2035 has finally assembled their own completely automated manufacturing facility. Unfortunately, there has been a short in the central command receptor, and the robots have gone rogue. It's kind of cool. It comes with a ray gun. You get to shoot stuff. System76.com. Well, not stuff. Augmented reality robots. Kind of different there. System76.com. Go get a great system and tell them Noah switched to Linux, even if it's not true. It just really tickles us. System76.com.
Don't do that.
No, why not? They got to know they heard about it here from somewhere.
Because here's the thing.
Here's the thing.
They're already questioning the validity of my ability to switch people to Linux.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, Noah. Here's the thing. Here is the thing.
Lay it on me. Lay the thing on me.
It's just a way of saying you heard about it here. Because you could say, hey, I heard about you on last, but why not have some fun when you're doing it? Give us some credit. And I mean, you know the joke. You know, it means if you're saying that, you know the inside joke. You know the inside beat. And I think that means even more. They're going to see that order and they're be like, these people know the inside track. And I feel like it's like good karma for your order. System76.com. I don't know. Check them out. And they
get some free stuff.
Hey, check this out. Mr. Vertunda sent in a album of his new Vocor 2, which is this tiny itsy bitsy box. I'm going to fast forward. There it is right there. That looks like it's the box of the thing. No. Look at this thing. Look how little it is. It's just a little bit larger than an Ethernet jack, and an audio port out. How badass is that? Also, I think, yeah, there you go. On the other side, USB, HDMI, I think, or no, that's my bad. That might be micro USB, but might have, I don't know. And looks like maybe a micro SD card reader. Little teensy tiny itsy bitsy Linux box that comes with this web over management thing, OpenWRT preloaded on it. So if you're familiar with all the stuff you get with OpenWRT, you get this. It's an itty bitty little teeny bitty router or VPN device that's, I don't know. I can't even think what it's comparable to for you audio listeners size wise. It's the size of like a ring box, like a small ring box. It's just a tiny little Linux computer. And Veritunda is talking a bit about it in the Linux Action Show subreddit thread, linuxactionshow.reddit.com. And look at this, Noah. 74 milliamps Wi-Fi on standby. And when it's at full...
There you go.
When it's at full power, it's 230 milliamps with 5 volts of input. That's amazing.
See, now that's what you need in your RV.
I know.
Right there.
That's what's up, for real. That's really cool. And so if you're curious about that little slick device, check it out. We have it linked in the show notes, or you can find it at the subreddit. All right, Andrew writes in, following up on an Exchange migration discussion we had last week, which came out of nowhere. He says, Noah, I jumped out of my chair when you started talking about the Exchange migration. We're going to be moving off our Exchange server very soon. We're moving off of 2007 Exchange because it's not supported after Office 2013. I'm not sure what he's saying there, but I follow. It's not supported much longer. I'm currently trying to push my company away from Office 365 to something like Google Apps. There's an obvious Linux bias, but I've also heard enough horror stories from friends who have already moved Office 365. I want to avoid that if all possible. I was hoping you would cover this migration on the show. It might make good user content, and I'd like to get your experience after the move. The post-migration user experience is one of the biggest concerns with moving to the Googs. Thanks for all of your hard work and the insights you bring into the show. Andrew. What do we have?
So do you have any tips from... Well, so I guess my question for you is, do you have anything to address on pain points on migrating from Exchange off of Exchange?
Well, Noah, come in and stay a while. No, actually, I'll just give you one big tip. No, that's just one big tip. Really make sure you got the Outlook profile stuff dialed in. If you can use a tool to move your Outlook profile to the new services or something like that, if you can move to a service that comes with a Outlook migrator, that's going to save your end users so much headache, because it is within the beast of Outlook that there are millions of little things that your users expect to work just right. Everything from the way the Composer window is configured to address book suggestions and everything. They have built their workflow around this. This is definitely certain types of businesses more than others. And so Outlook is the monster, because often in so many cases, you end up with a new Outlook profile connected to the new server, and what's the big deal? We migrated the data and it's fine. And it's not fine. Everything, little intricate things like the weird, crazy calendar reminder events they set up that never move quite right. Any of that stuff. If you can avoid any Outlook pain points, it will dramatically reduce the user friction. And if you can reduce user friction, you're going to be in a much better place day 2 or 3 after the migration. Because what really happens after these migrations is, first, you get swamped with the one-off esoteric technical issues that range from DNS is forwarding to the wrong spam filter to backup MX is pointed at the old system, and some weird mailing list is using that for some reason. Then you work out and solve all of those things, because those are the immediate big picture issue. Meanwhile, if there are any Outlook issues, they multiply per user. So you got 5 users, 10 users, 20 users that are having Outlook issues. That becomes this hot mess that just sits there and simmers and stews while you're working on the server issues, and leads to super upset users who start thinking things like you weren't prepared, or this wasn't maybe worth it, or why did we go through this trouble, or should we have used the other solution? And it is really easy to overlook how much of a bitch Outlook can be. So my one advice
So
would be,
if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're telling me is that if you're doing a migration, what you should not do is delete all the old Outlook profiles and create new ones so that they don't accidentally wind up on their old profile pointing to the old server.
I would
that
say,
be a poor choice.
I would say, you know, the best experience I've had is when I was reselling hosted Exchange. Intermedia developed a tool called the Exchange Server Migration Tool or something like this that worked with the Outlook profile, and that was really the best experience I had. And since then, some providers like Google will give you a tool like that. I would say my advice would be test that tool. Get a couple of test users or set up a couple of test scenarios. I prefer to work with real users if you have users that are compatible with your work style because they have all those esoteric settings that they've built up over the years and they've built in all that muscle memory and you need that to fully test this. And I would try a few different users. Try out a migration tool. I would weigh significantly my decision based on that, just on probably the 30 or 40 companies that I've switched Exchange servers on. It has always been, there's always something little that you got to solve. It's not a big deal. It's just part of migrating. You know, oh yeah, we forgot the backup thing or that isn't set right. There's always something that you just have to resolve a day or two afterwards, and you just factor that in and it's fine. But the users, if you get a lot of them that get upset, that turns it sour real fast. So that would be my advice. And stick around, plan to be there for a couple of days afterwards because people will be coming in, they'll be doing something they didn't do on Monday, on Tuesday, and those kinds of things. Are you ready to take on Mr. Max's email?
Boy, am I ever. All right. So Max writes in, he says, hey, Chris and I just have recently found your network and your shows and been listening to them and trying to catch up on all the previous episodes of the Linux Action Show at the moment. I work for my father in a small business as a union plumber and a system admin. I have been trying to get his okay to switch the file server from Windows to Linux superior file systems and better stability. Windows also restarts. He goes on to explain a couple of the problems with Windows, but his real question is, he says, I remember Noah talking about a QuickBooks alternative in the early 400s hosted by the System 76 as the parent company. I have to tell you, the product that you're talking about is Beansbooks, and we switched to it a couple of years ago, and our experience has been like beyond amazing. And I'll just tell you quickly why. Part of it is because anytime we have an issue, we just email David Overcash, who's the guy over there that deals with Beansbooks, and like within a week, he fixes problems. So if there are development issues or things didn't quite make sense for our business model, we said, it'd be great if this box could be over here or could do this or calculate tax this way and all these different things. And they accommodate us. they say, okay, well, let's get a developer working on it. Fix. I want to hear all who have emailed Intuit and had them make a change in QuickBooks for them. Raise your hand. Anyone? Oh. And then secondly, the other thing that has been phenomenal is that Intuit works with the government and they make these little tools that they can audit. So when they go to do an audit, they just upload your QuickBooks file thing and it can scan through and then it does all this automated nonsense. To the best of my knowledge, System 76 ain't working with the government to make sure that they have all these tools available for you.
Which,
so
if you didn't catch, is a positive in Noah's column. Yeah, that's a good thing. It's a good
thing. Yes, very much so. But we have had literally no problems. We pay for their hosting, so they they'll just give you the software and you just go install it on a Droplet or something. We just pay them to host it, and then that way they manage everything for us. And it's like $18 a month.
I bet I would sniff around, check their site, see if you can start a dialogue with them and see if it's a fit. I would say, my lady's now that she's on Linux all across the board, she's doing QuickBooks Online, which has its pros and cons. She got a great deal. They gave her, to get her to switch off of the standard local software install on Windows, which she was ready to do because she was moving to Linux anyways. They gave her a deal for like a year, which is not bad. Not bad. So those are things to look into as well, Mac. If you'd like to send us a question, go over to jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact and choose Linux Action Show from the dropdown, or start a thread, linuxactionshow.reddit.com. That's also where you can submit stories, open source projects we should look at, other things that are worthy of discussion, linuxactionshow.reddit.com. And we do this show live, noon Pacific time, over at jblive.tv. You can get it converted to your local time at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. And Mr. Colonel Linux, where can people find you on Twitter? It's pretty hard to nail down.
At Colonel Linux?
Oh.
Is that at
Altaspeed, if that cut out for you, and at Colonel Linux, that's where you find that guy. I'm at Chris LAS for my personal account, and at Jupiter Signal for the network account. If you'd like to get a hold of me, that's a great way to contact me via Twitter, because I'm totes behind on email right now. I get in a lot of trouble. I get in a lot of trouble. But you know what? That 140 characters, They should never drop that limit. I'll tell you what. I hope Twitter never drops that limit because that makes it work. So if you want to get a hold of me, twitter.com/ChrisLAS. And if you want to put a story in front of our noses, linuxactionshow.reddit.com. Okay, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. And we'll see you right back here next week.
I should do my news segment in my NPR post.
All right. I don't think we have any titles yet, but that's fine. I just hate all of you. Hey, Noah, it's the news, and
Yes.
this episode is brought to you.
Okay.
Brought to
All right.
you.
We'll start.
Brought to you.
Start.
Hello, and welcome
Go
to the
ahead.
Linux Action Show. On a very special edition, we're going to go inside Noah's home
Linux forum.
and his
Right,
passion to create
Thank you.
a holiday display using open source software with no cloud
Thank you.
connectivity.
Yes.
Noah, thank you for coming on the show. I'm really excited
I'm
to hear
happy.
what you've been working on.
I'm happy to be here, and the Linux forum should be excellent. Hey, it's the news, and this episode is brought to you by.
Wait a minute. What do you mean DuckTales is coming back? Do you have a link to this? DuckTales is coming back?
Oh boy. Well, there's the end of the show.
That's huge. That is
Oh boy.
that is
Oh
huge.
boy. Oh my.
That's a big deal.
All right, ready? All right.
Quit screwing around.
All
Let's
right,
go.
it's okay. All right. All right. Okay. It's a sneeze in there. Yes. Yes. Enjoy it. Sing it.
News time.
Hey.
I'm not singing. I'm not singing a Christmas song. No,
No, please continue singing.
no,
Christmas.
I'm not.
I
I'm
love
singing.
it.
I'm singing the news
You're
song.
Fantastic.
I'm singing the news
I
song.
want to hear. I want to hear. You will not. You will not destroy my Christmas spirit.
You ever stepped outside at your place and it's been so cold it's like taking your breath away? Like,
No.
have you ever? Has it ever been so
Long-
cold that you've taken a leak outside and it started to freeze before it hits the ground?
Nope.
That must be because I
Because
know
I
that's a
don't-
thing up in Alaska.
Yeah, I understand that, but here's the thing: nobody in their right mind puts on as much snow gear as I do to leave their house and then exposes an appendage, particularly such a valuable appendage.
But dude, you don't. You're not even.
happen.
I just can't even imagine if I grew up in a place like you did. I just would be so. I would want to, even if I could come with, like, I just stick the tip out, dude, and just pee into the wind a little bit.
Here's the problem:
Freeze
you
your
take
pee.
your glove off, and you take your glove off like one time to get like the car keys out or whatever, and that
Yeah.
ends all curiosity. What that might feel like.
I don't know.
It's like- here's the thing.
Honestly, no. I feel like I'd be pissing out the window. There's a way I could make this work.
I'll relate it for you. In Vegas, there is this street performer, and his gig is you can walk and kick him in the nuts for $25, as hard as you want, right?
No way, really.
There is no guy. Yeah. There is no. Well, I kind of suspect he, whatever.
doesn't
Anyway,
have nuts.
There is. Yeah. I mean, come on. So, but here's the thing. I don't believe there is any guy that ever watched that happen and goes, "Ooh, I'm really curious about how that feels. I'm gonna go pace. I'm gonna go let somebody just one time, just to try it. Like that doesn't happen. Like
Yeah,
you,
but so
you
there's-
know.
Here's the thing, Noah. Here's the thing. I fantasize about watching my urine evaporate into ice as it leaves my body. Like, to me, it's the same fascination that makes me want to light a hair can on fire. You know, when you're spraying a hair, like that same
Well, I've
thing.
done that numerous times. You
Yeah.
haven't done that?
No, I have. I'm just saying, like the same thing that compels me to want to. Now I don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But the same thing that compels me to want to
Why
light a
not?
hair can on fire compels me to want to piss into the wind and watch it freeze before it hits the ground. And I feel like you're selling it short. I feel like if you wanted to, like, you could come up with a contraption to take a leak. If men can travel to the depths of the ocean in a wetsuit and take a leak, you could pee in Grand Forks, North Dakota.
I have the next idea for us to do. I got an activity. You and I are going to the range and we're going to shoot some tannerite.
Some
If you
what?
think tannerite. If you think like taking a hair can and putting a lighter in front of it is cool, and I admit that it is, tannerite is the next level. It's like the only legal like explosive.
That's
thing
amazing.
You can buy.
Elroy in the chat
Yeah.
room. My cousin drilled a hole in the wall, stuck a funnel in the hole, and pissed out the hole. That's how you do it. That's motivation. That's ingenuity.
I mean, got hole you got, Pat.
No, dude, that's your new pee hole. What are you talking about? That's your new pee hole. You leave that.
My wife likes our wall, so if I had to take half of it
Oh,
out,
yeah,
so I
man.
can put it outside.
This is
it
for
would
when
not
this
go
is
well.
for this is for when you get kicked out for doing something stupid for a little while and you're living in a shack up on Standing
Okay.
Rock. Yeah.
Okay.